So we've heard from some very visionary people today. You're not going to hear from anyone as visionary as Peter, probably in your life. I've known Peter since we were both teenagers. He was getting his third degree while I was getting my first and only. He's the only guy I know who's a world-leading expert on biotech and everything going on in healthcare, AI, computation, co-founder of Singularity University, so AI, and now blockchain as well. The XPRIZE is moving to an NFT structure, so becoming the world's visionary there too. He's the author of 4 books, 3 of which I've read so far, so I have to catch up. And all of those books have a common theme about convergence of technologies and these collisions that create huge opportunity, disproportionate opportunity, but they require vision across so many different areas of technology. So if you want to see 5 years into the future, which is about the limit of human vision now, there's no better person on the planet to talk to than Peter about where things are going. So absolutely a pleasure to be able to ask you some questions today.
Thanks, Bill.
So I see Peter all the time because I'm on the board of XPRIZE. Peter founded this massive organization, XPRIZE, that's changing the world. The board members there are Larry Page. We have a $100 million prize from Elon Musk. Jeff Shames from here at MIT is on that board. It's just an unbelievable group of people. And so, Peter, question 1, why do people like that, why are they attracted to XPRIZE?
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say, Dave, thank you for all the work that you're doing. And I love partnering with you. And I love MIT, right? So I spent over a decade at MIT. I can't wait to spend more time there. I apologize, I'm not there physically in person. Believe me, I'm there emotionally and spiritually. And I want to just echo one of the things you and I have talked about, which is I think entrepreneurship is the highest form of creativity and the highest form of contribution to society, right? Entrepreneurs are people who find huge, unwieldy problems and solve them. And I think entrepreneurship is the mechanism by which we keep making the world a better place. And the one thing I would wish for MIT more than anything else is not more Nobel laureates, but more extraordinary entrepreneurs, because I think we need to up the game. And I want to crush Stanford at the entrepreneurial game. So just to be clear, I want to put the gauntlet out there. On the issue of XPRIZE, what's happening right now that's important to realize is that it used to be that only 100 years ago was the robber barons, right? The industrialists who had the money and the relationships and so forth. And then it was the large companies in the last 20 to 50 years that could take on a problem. But today it's any one of us, right? Today an entrepreneur, anyone here listening, has the ability to access all the computational power, all the data and assets and cognitive surplus around the world. While we're in a little bit of an economic crunch, we're still connected to more capital than any time ever before. And so I believe that it's no longer the large governments or large companies, but it's the entrepreneur trying crazy idea after crazy idea after crazy idea that goes and solves the problem. So the basic concept around the XPRIZE was, let's become experts in the problem. Like, what is the issue, right? Whether the $100 million prize we're doing with Elon, I called him and said, let's do a prize around, gigaton carbon removal. He's such an extraordinary entrepreneur where he makes yes, no decisions very quickly. He said, yes, let's do it. A week later, we were off and running. We did a $30 million Google Lunar XPRIZE that Sergey greenlit. We've been doing prizes for mapping the ocean floor, for basically teaching kids in the middle of Tanzania without any schools or literate adults. We're doing prizes on stem cell grown meats. So the realization is that small teams can do things that only governments could do before. And if you really want to break through, you don't want to go to the traditional players. You want to go, right, the day before something is truly a breakthrough, it's a crazy idea. And the problem is most large companies don't have a crazy idea department. They shun crazy ideas. And if they do that, they're stuck in incrementalism, right? So an exponential mindset, to go back to John's request, is around your willingness to rapidly iterate on crazy ideas and be prepared to shut them down as they don't work. And so XPRIZE is a platform play for solving huge global problems, and saying to people around the world, I don't care where you went to school, though I'd love it if you went to MIT. I don't care what you've ever done before. If you solve this problem, you win, and society wins. So it's really playing into the rapidity of and distribution of technology and capabilities as more and more intelligence, sort of plugs into the global ecosystem.
Just a couple more quick case studies. So which one did Wendy Schmidt fund? What was that about? And tell us about Richard Branson too.
Sure. So we had, when the BP oil spill hit in 2010, James Cameron was on my board at that time, and he said, we got to do something about the spill. It's, mucking up the Gulf of Mexico and the shoreline. And so he said, we need to do an emergency prize on cleaning up oil spills. And so Eric Schmidt, who's been one of our major benefactors, sent me an email and said, Wendy and I will fund this prize. And so we asked teams to reinvent how you clean up oil spills on the ocean surface before they hit the coastline and destroy the fisheries and the beach. And we had like 400 teams. One of the things I love about these prizes is they crowdsource genius, crazy ideas from around the world. We had like 400 teams enter. We narrowed it down to the top 10, and they had to deliver their oil spill cleanup solution in a shipping container to Omset, New Jersey. And as an example, one of the teams that made it to a finalist was a family from Alaska who spent all their money, and it was like they were fishers in Alaska. We had a team that was a tattoo artist out of Las Vegas who basically said, I have an idea. He pitched one of his customers. They built a scale model in the guy's jacuzzi, and it beat everything that was out there except for the winner, which was a team of about 80 people. And that's now the new mechanism for cleaning up oil spills. So when I was at MIT in the 80s into the early 90s, I was a space cadet. I wanted to open up the space frontier. I had built a company called Zero G that does weightless flights, a company called Space Adventures to go to the space station, but I wanted to go myself. And so I was reading Lindbergh's autobiography that in 1919, a Frenchman, Raymond Ortega, put up a $10,000 prize for the first person to fly into space. Lindbergh won that prize, and $400,000 was spent to go after a $25,000 prize. And that idea of an aviation prize just lit my skull on fire. And in 1996, I got on stage in St. Louis to offer up a $10 million prize for the first team who could build a private spaceship carrying 3 adults up to 100 kilometers, land, and do it again within 2 weeks. Incredibly, we had 26 teams who spent $100 million to do it. Burt Rutan, one of the famed aviation designers, backed by Paul Allen from Microsoft, built Spaceship One. Richard Branson, who I had pitched twice on funding the $10 million and said no twice, comes in at the last minute, buys the rights to Spaceship One from Paul and from Burt, and builds Virgin Galactic. And so anyway, I'll just say, if there are any members of the SEDS crowd out there, when I was an undergrad in 1980, 81, I started a group called Students for Exploration and Development of Space,
still
SEDS,
here.
which, yeah, still here, awesome.
Yeah.
Jeff Bezos was the Princeton chapter president, and so I remember meeting with Jeff years later, and when he's starting Amazon, I said, so Jeff, like, what is this Amazon thing? I thought you wanted to do space. And he goes, well, I'm going to do Amazon first, make some money, and then go spend it in space. An easy 1-2-step plan. And he played it out.
Yep, went exactly according to plan. Actually, Peter's competing with John Werner for the world's most connected man. And the fact that he met...
John wins.
Well, Peter, to create SEDS as an undergrad, and an organization that's still here on campus for anyone who's passionate about space, but Jeff was a space nut as an undergrad in Princeton and copied it. So, like, who can say they knew Jeff?
He didn't copy. He with permission I was chairman of the national organization, and he started the Princeton chapter. But was great. But I love the fact that two of the wealthiest people on the planet are both space cadets. That just makes my life a lot easier.
Yeah. Well, so now I think this is a really important question because MIT and tech has been largely separate from celebrities and sports stars and all that. Now, just by pure luck, space travel is centered around LA. because that's where there's lots of land space to launch and land. And so
in the aerospace industry, the military has been here, Lockheed and so forth. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's what brought Peter to the LA area. But now he's connected to this community, which involves all the celebrities and sports stars and everything else in the world. And so he's kind of the go-to guy in the LA area for truth, because there's very little truth in LA, obviously. So he's the MIT guy that actually knows what's real and what's not real. So then blockchain comes along, and this is really the first big collision between hard tech, like real gut code, hard deep tech, and celebrities. And so it's just starting, and so Peter's right at that intersection. So what have you seen so far? Anything interesting?
Well, first of all, I just want to say the realization is, and it's been said, I've been watching for the last couple hours, we're just at the very beginning, right? We're just at the inception. There's going to be, multiple trillion-dollar companies being built out of this. And for me, as you said, Dave, it's really about the convergence of these technologies. It's the convergence of computation, sensors, networks, AI, robotics, 3D printing, right? As we have AI and quantum computing coming online, and we have, a trillion sensor world where you can know anything you want, anytime you want, anywhere you want, right? That's where we start to have it. So we're in the area of playing. But what I would tell everybody listening is that you really want to become an expert in the problem and then apply the technology. And it's the convergence of 2 or 3 technologies, creating new business models where the real juice is going to be. And that's where, I'm standing in the offices of my venture fund, Bold Capital. I work with Dave in his fund and extraordinary ecosystem Dave Blundin's created. And for me, I'm looking for just the smartest entrepreneurs who've got the most passion and who want to go off and combine these technologies, not just blockchain, not just Web3, not just AI. It's 2, 3, or 4 of these come together, focusing on billion-person problems.
Yep. And at the same time, so there are a lot of the companies that are incubating around here and cooking are about NFT tokens having actual utility. And one of the best forms, like one of the beginning forms of utility is, am I a real fan, or am I a real follower? And I can actually hold up my phone and prove that I went to every game, or I've seen every movie. It's actually, a provable thing that you can just flash in front of a celebrity crowd. And I think that's a game changer, but nobody here seems to be connected to that world. And so,
it's interesting, Dave, because one of the things I think that's important is we're going to be going from intention to materialization, right? And so one of the things that the whole NFT ecosystem is going to allow is for people who have desires to instantiate them very rapidly, right? So we're going to be, as you mentioned, as one of my partners and board members in XPRIZE, we're going to be using, the whole NFT ecosystem to allow people to vote on which prizes we want to create, for you to become fans of the teams. And this is really about the rapid, it's increasing the velocity in the world, the velocity of finding a problem, knocking it down, finding a problem, knocking it down, and creating greater and greater capabilities and uplifting humanity more than ever before.
Yeah, there's another company just presented in the other room, MIT, called Portal. And it's tackling this problem of, when you have a new idea, whether it's an XPRIZE or any kind of a new thing, it's propagating now through the NFTs so that the early adopters can actually they can actually invest in it in a way that they never could before. And then if they promote it to their friends and it spreads virally through Twitter or through, and you're very close to Elon Musk, you can see he's buying Twitter. Elon doesn't do things like that on a whim. He has calculations upon calculations for every move. And so Twitter is the vehicle by which these ideas get propagated now, and of course he'll own it, which is going to be good for you in some way. I can already tell. But now that things are propagating, that's really replacing mass market advertising. TV ads, that are completely irrelevant go away, and things that just make sense get propagated from influencers and people who have credibility, and they get propagated out. So the Portal guys are putting together the metrics that allow you to track whether it's smart to have this influencer talk about it or that influencer talk about it. So it's a great example, but those teams are, again, largely disconnected from the most important users, the community of Elon Musk's and movie stars, and it'll propagate out from there to science and elsewhere, but it's starting.
Yeah, well, Dave, you and I are creating a duality here between Boston and LA. To partner in really supporting the top entrepreneurs out there. So, if you're going to crush it in the near future and you've got an amazing idea and you're an MIT superstar, reach out. I'm simple. I'm Peter at XPRIZE.org, and Dave can offer up his.
Yeah, Dave at Link Ventures, if anyone wants to contact. Very cool. So tell us, just in our last 40 seconds here, the NFTs for XPRIZE. Where are we in that process?
Well, we're still in the earliest stages. XPRIZE 1.0 was me getting the first $10 million prize for spaceflight up and going. No one wanted to believe it. XPRIZE 2.0 was after the first one was won. We've launched $300 million in prizes. XPRIZE 3.0 is really what we're about to invent, and the NFT world's an important part of that. We're going to describe what the future looks like in 2045. Like, what's the first principle thinking, abundant-minded vision of the future for 20 years from now, and then what's the roadmap to get there, and then what are the prizes we need that are inflection points for creating that world. So stay tuned. We're looking for, like I said, brilliant people, and XPRIZE is hiring a lot, by the way. So anyway, Dave, love you, buddy.
I'm going to steal time for one more question.
Okay, all right.
Because I saw you talking to Eric Schmidt about this just a couple of weeks ago, and he's in the government now where they're studying this problem. A lot of the people in the crypto community are AI people or former AI people. Strong AI. When's it coming?
Listen, I'm going to stick with what my business partner Ray Kurzweil has said. By 2029, we've seen Elon say that recently. He believes by the end of the decade. So the challenge is that it's non-intuitive. We have very little knowledge about all the things going on in the world, and it's not linear. And we are local and linear mindset. So the question is, what's the world look like in 8 to 10 years if we've got strong AI, human level AI? It's a game changer. And no one in the world is thinking sufficiently about the implications, not the dystopian implications like Terminator, we're screwed. It's like, how do I leverage that, right? And I don't think any of us truly understand the velocity of change.
Yep.
And the existing ecosystem of companies and government institutions are going to be massively disrupted. And it's fantastic opportunities for entrepreneurs.
Yeah, Peter, that's awesome. Love you. Thank you.
Peter,
love you too, buddy. Take care, John. Thank you.
Hey, Peter,
Yeah.
just before you go, I think I've told everyone, if you come to this event, you come to the San Francisco event, you come to the Davos event, you get a Chia Pet. And even though you zoomed in, you're eligible for it. And I want you to help us rally the MIT network to be part of these Imagination Action events. We need more imagination and action than before. And I think MIT can do that in spades. And you're a leader of the band.
Thank you, pal. You're amazing. Thank you. I know MIT and Dave at Media Lab, and everybody's just proud to have you on their team. So thank you for what you do. Anyway, guys, a big hug to everybody there. Take care.
And after what you're going to hear right now, we have Linda Henry, that is the CEO of the Boston Globe, interviewing. It's going to be the dueling CEOs, media CEOs, interviewing the CEO of Forbes. And I hope it doesn't turn into Jerry Springer type stuff. I'm dating myself. That was a joke. I am so proud to introduce you to Peter Diamandis. And I think he's changed the vector of society. The way he frames Exponential and how you can harness it and what's happening, what happened and what could happen and what will happen and what should happen and what we got to be careful on. He's one of the most inspirational speakers, and actually we kind of built the event around him when he said that he would speak, and then his schedule kind of got messed up, but he's so committed that he's our only speaker we're going to put on the big screen, and I think he gets paid like tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars to inspire people, and I think he gives a lot of it away to help. He's like Robin Hood in some ways. But XPRIZE has driven more innovation, and I'm really proud for you to hear for a few minutes how he views exponential thinking as it maps to Web3 related stuff. And the next 24 months, I think MIT can win Web3 and that they can help lead it. And Stanford, I think, won Web2. And it's evangelists who are alumni of the 140,000 of MIT, like Peter, that are part of the reason why I think the future is good for the geeky types getting involved. Ladies and gentlemen, Peter Diamandis. Oh, sorry, I didn't even see.
I'm good interview.
So this is his roommate from college. He knows stuff about Peter that nobody knows. So if you want that stuff, interview him outside of this. I didn't realize that. Sorry.
No, that's not coming up. That's not. Peter, can you see me, or am I just like?
I can, Dave. I can see you, buddy.
Well,
and John,
your head is in 3 different places. One of them is 20, 30 feet high. So you look great.
Yeah, cognitive surplus. I've always wanted 300%. It's great to see you, pal.
All right, it's great to see you too.
Let me just first say to John Werner, John, no one puts on an event like you. You're extraordinary. Thank you for being in my life and being in Dave's life, and thank you for this. Yeah, just amazing, John.
All right.
And Dave and Newman, if you're still there, and Ramesh, awesome. Yeah.
Did you hear it's big day for Ramesh, actually? He's going to be doing all the programming for Media Lab. Just fantastic.
Yeah.
Very, very venture studio model from here on out. So lots of entrepreneurship going on in this building. It's my favorite building on the planet.